If you're anything like us or most people, sometimes you're not sure if it's the right time to get out there and actually get into an investment property. Now, in today's video, we're going to talk about 5 reasons why you are actually ready to get started and get into the market and take advantage of these incredible conditions right now.
So first things first, you need to put some skin into the game. The banks are always going to want some cash or some equity to purchase that first home. Now, good thing is nowadays you can get a loan from a pretty small deposit, anywhere between 10 to 20%, but even some banks, some specialty lenders are actually going below that 10% mark as well. So you really need to get an idea around where you're at. Let's say you got $60,000. That's sort of where we like to say for people that we're working with that you need to have in order to buy a quality investment grade property.
Without a doubt. So let's say you've got a $400K purchase and you want to put 10% deposit down, that's $40K. And then you've obviously got your stamp duty, your bank fees, your soliciting fees, your transfer fees. So that sort of eats up the $60K pretty quickly. Now, the second thing that we think is equally important, and it's by far the most important thing for the banks at the moment, is what they call serviceability. Now, that is how much you can borrow based on either your income or your partner's income or the income out of your business. Now, effectively in Australia, it is so simple. We once worked with a client who had $10 million cash in the bank and the Australian banks would not lend him a cent unless he had a job in Australia. And he didn't want to put cash down to buy the properties, so he ended up not buying anything. Now, that is a really regular story. For a lot of you guys watching, your incomes would be absolutely fine to borrow money, but there's 2 other sides to that. And the side that I got caught on for a long time was I didn't have an income high enough to borrow any more money. And at one point I had to literally sit out of the market for 3 years while Sydney was going crazy.
And this is the reality of property investing, right? You get to a level where the banks are going to assess your situation and go, it's too risky for us to lend you money right now. You need to improve your situation, which more often than not is you need to increase your income because they're looking at worst case scenario, right? They're looking at, okay, what happens if they lose their job? What happens if their tenants move out and they need to continue paying the mortgage? How can we make sure that we're going to get our money back, make sure that we're in the safest possible position as well? So income, super important. Mum had a similar situation. She had a heap of cash in the bank, but wasn't working at the time. And the banks were just like, we're not even going to address this. We're not even going to talk to you until you're coming to us with some income. So, depending on how much debt you currently hold or how much you want to spend on a property, you can get away with a relatively low income. I bought my first investment property at an income of $55,000. And that enabled me to service that loan personally. So, that's pretty good to note. But obviously, the bigger the better.
The bigger the better. The third one is, in terms of knowing if you're ready to buy an investment property or not, is do you actually have a bit of a plan or a strategy? Now, this doesn't have to be a crazy spreadsheet, although we like spreadsheets. It doesn't have to be this absolutely massive business plan, investment plan. It can literally be the back of a napkin or a one-pager. But, that plan for me, when I sit down and write it, and I really did recently do this again, is, what's my goal for the next year? And my goal was actually for me this year to pay off some debt versus buy a property. But for you, it might be, I want to buy a property, and then it's like, cool, well, what can I borrow? I can borrow $500K. And then it's like, well, looking at Australia, which markets look good right now? I think Perth, Adelaide, Darwin, Brisbane look great. For me, I choose Brisbane because that's where 25% of Australia's long job growth, income growth, infrastructure growth, and population is going to be. And it's also connected to Sydney and Melbourne in a way. And then I go, well, Brisbane's cool. Which suburbs can I afford that haven't gone nuts yet? I like these handful, and that's where the plan, really hits the road. It doesn't have to be much harder than that.
No, it doesn't. It's just a process of elimination, because if you're trying to look in multiple different cities, even in multiple different suburbs, it gets super overwhelming and things are going to slip through the cracks. You're going to miss out on quality opportunities. So it's just about refining that strategy down so you know what you should be specializing in, you know what you should be focusing on, and it's just taking some hats off so that you can get the best possible result. I guess the fourth thing after that is, you know, having an interest in property investing as well. Like, we're not just necessarily buying properties for the sake of buying properties. There should be a little bit more to it. For me, property is a passion. You know, I love real estate investing, and finally I'm starting to see some gains from that with capital growth, and it's so nice. You know, I'm not going to the banks and getting my properties revalued every single month, but you know, I'm looking at comparable properties selling in the area, and then looking at mine and going, man, I'm earning like $3-4 grand a week right now.
I'm on the sales section of realestate.com 3 times a day. But I'm not really dragging it that much. No, I like that, man, because property started as an interest to me, and then it became a way that I saw to create choices and financial freedom. And then it's actually, same as Simon, became an actual passion. Like, I love looking at areas. I like looking at the data. I like negotiating with agents. I like buying an asset that'll set me and my children up for their futures as well. And, you know, you guys wouldn't be watching this stuff if you weren't either trying to learn the skills or hopefully deeply interested in setting yourself up and using property as the vehicle. So that could be podcasts, it could be videos like this one, it could be books, it could be sitting down planning, it could be talking to a colleague at work. But if this keeps coming up for you, then that's a good sign that you're on the journey and you're starting to figure out some of the bigger rocks associated with this.
Yeah, and then the fifth thing, which is similar to being interested, it's kind of having a strong why. So, you know, coming back to that point where we're not just buying properties for the sake of buying properties, but, you know, there is a bigger intention. There is, you know, a bigger why and purpose, because property investing costs a lot of money. Entry and exit costs are heavy. It's not a super liquid asset, but there is so many pros to it as well. And having that strong why, having that reason to pull you through those tougher months or tougher years, like 3 years without being able to do what you absolutely love, it's tough to stay motivated and focused, but having that strong why really helps. Now for me, it's having choices in the future, using my portfolio to eventually generate a passive income that supplements my current income so that I can do what I want when I want.
I love that, man. Like, I've got 3 young kids, so a big priority for me is getting some of my time back. And investing has allowed me to take Fridays off, has allowed me to take 5-6 weeks off per year, which is beautiful. To not feel guilty on school holidays to take a week off, you know what I mean? Like, that's a huge thing as a parent. On top of that, I know that they're going to be okay in their future. I know that I'm going to be able to retire early with a passive income stream and not end up on the pension like our nan unfortunately did. And, you know, seeing that or watching that, it's not the sort of life that I want. You know, on top of that, it allows us to do our passion. Like, you know, if you're not enjoying your job and you've got a plan to, you know, set up some investments and then make a career change or start that business or get into that volunteering program you've always wanted to be a part of, like property investing or stocks or crypto or your own business or side hustle, they're all just ultimately ways to get your life and your time back. And we encourage everybody to be exploring that. And the earlier in your life you explore that, the better off you'll be and the more choices you'll get down the line.
100%, bro. I absolutely love it. Now, if you're sitting there and you're like, okay, well, I'm still not too sure whether or not I'm ready to buy, I think first things first is go organise a meeting with your bank manager or find a mortgage broker or contact your mortgage broker and get them to run some numbers for you, because sometimes you just never know. And, you know, that's probably the first step. And then you can start to put that plan together, figure out, you know, what you can purchase, how much you can spend and things like that. And then, you know, if you're not too sure about how to do it, how to actually execute that purchase, then, you know, we actually run a buyer's agency where we help a very small number of investors enter into the Southeast Queensland market every single month. And we actually offer free strategy sessions for people that are wanting to do exactly that. Now, there's a limited number of those strategy sessions available as well, but if you'd like to try and get into one, please head over to our website, www.pumpedonproperty.com, and follow the free strategy session links, put in your information, and let's get a conversation started so we can start to figure out that plan and start to understand how we're going to bring all this together.
You know, this is a journey. It takes time, but the first step, as Simon said, is figuring out, can you do something, creating a plan, and then deciding if you want to do this, if this is going to be the vehicle for you. And I can promise you now, 11 years into my journey. I'm so grateful that I found property. Like, it has changed my life so much for the better, and we hope that it does the same thing for you down the line.
Sweaty, so sweaty. Oh, that's good.